Shalom, everyone, and welcome to this week's update. Again, joining me will be Gilla Treibich. Many of you have been on trips to Israel with Gilla. She's spoken at GLC many times and always filled with questions and knowledge, and long time friend. And of course, we have Roy Shaposhnik, who is with the 188th Brigade. He is the head of the Brigade Association. And so we're coming out right before Purim. And Purim has, I think, some similarities. The battle with Haman and the people of that day relates to this day. And we're told we just read Parsha Zakor, the Shabbat Zakor, where we remember that when Israel came out of Egypt, that the Amalekites met them in battle, and Hashem said that there will be war with Amalek from one generation to another generation. And so Gilla and Roy, do you see associations with today's war with Hamas? Are they the new Amalek?
Well, possibly they're the new Amalek. Amalek is, we don't really know anything historical or archaeological about Amalek. Nobody knows what language they spoke. There's no country of Amalek, but somehow this is the arch enemy of Israel. The one time that King Saul was supposed to kill all the people of Amalek, and he spared the king. And in the Jewish tradition, of course, the King Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin. And when you read years later, right, King Saul is about 1000 BC, maybe a little before. You read years later, about 600 BC, 400 years later, the big enemy is Haman the Agagite. And Amalek the king was Agagi, right? Agag Melech Amalek, Agag. So Haman is actually a descendant, is believed to be a descendant. So you see, it kind of pursues you forever and ever. The reason that we're given in the book of Deuteronomy about why Amalek should be persecuted is because he went after the weak and the feeble at the end of the camp. But that, in a sense, is a comment about the internal social situation of Israel. Because why do you let the weak and the feeble to walk at the end of the camp? You should be protecting them. So it's a very complex situation, very complex whole picture. Now, is the new Amalek the Hamas, the Hezbollah? Possibly so. Hamas definitely attacked Israel very suddenly, attacked the weakest of weak, women and children. And now today is actually in Israel the fast, right? The fast is called the fast of Esther. But notice it's not called like the 9th of Av is Tzom. The 10th of Tevet is Tzom. This is Ta'anit. Because both of these fasts that I mentioned were in memory of a disaster. This one, Ta'anit, is to prevent a disaster. And it actually prevented it. So, and Purim, those of you who've been to Israel know that it's a great holiday. You walk the street and it's like a big festival. It's a big Halloween. All the kids are in costumes, making lots of noise, making lots of joy, and it's a very joyous holiday. So that's as far as Purim. And if anybody sees any more connection, Joe or Roy, with current day situation.
I have to say something about this amazing explanation that you gave, Gila, and I have to tell you that I fully agree with you. I'm not that into all the history as you mentioned it, but I have to tell you one thing: history repeats itself,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
definitely we are on the same phase. I think the only big difference right now is that literally we have a country.
Right.
The Jewish, towards all the years, we never had a country or a state as we have right now. In a matter of fact, we have something that we know that, we always fought for the dream to come to make Aliyah, to go to Israel. And all of a sudden now we have Israel that we need to protect. So I think that's the big difference, the way as I
Right.
see it. But I fully agree with you.
It's only the third time that the Jewish people have sovereignty, have a really sovereign state. And that's extremely important.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Well, what is happening in Israel? What's happening with Gaza? First off? Let me ask you what's happening with the army.
The army. So let's start with the army. The army, with the change of the chief of staff, the army is now actually changing. When we were kids, we used to say we need to change the disc. So the army has changed the disc. Let's call it like that. Things has been moved a little bit more aggressive. Beside of the chief of the staff that has been replaced yesterday, the commander of the South Command, sorry, has been replaced as well. And I have to tell you, based on his speech, he literally managed to put and to set two main goals. And one is to demolish Hamas completely. And the second thing is to get Gaza back into a prosperity, but he didn't mention to who. But that's a good question. That's a good point from his side. The army is getting ready. We are sitting and learning a new commands, a new operative activity in order to make sure that we are ready to enter Gaza again once we will get the right command from the government itself. Beside of that, there is still a lot that is going on related to the hostage. Plenty of negotiation. There is a delegation that has landed in Qatar together with the Americans and Egypt, and of course people from Hamas. There is a very, let's say, it was very small in the morning, but it became bigger. A chance that we will receive another amount of 3 to 5 live hostages in return of continuous the ceasefire until the end of Ramadan. It looks quite positive at this stage, and one can only pray that it will happen because we need to get them out of there as soon as possible. On the other hand, I must say that there is a lot of rumors, specifically, by the way, about an American intervention in Gaza. So, some small hints about maybe the American Navy, the American Marines will enter Gaza.
Wow.
I think it's only to create a kind of a different scale in front of Hamas and to show our neighbors that United States means very, very serious in these days.
Business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need all to remember, we are, beside of Ramadan for the Muslims, we are entering spring. We are entering a very sensitive period of time of Passover holiday in Israel, and then Holocaust Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, those are sensitive time for us that, I definitely have no doubt that our government is taking in their conclusion when they are talking about getting back into Gaza. Having saying all of that, I can tell you 188 Brigade, together with the IDF, is ready to go tonight into Gaza and to do whatever we need and to succeed. But it's not in our hand right now, and we are waiting to get the answer.
Mhm. When is the new commander coming in? Do you know? Do we know?
No.
No. Okay,
So,
fine.
no. I will tell you that. Look, everything went on stop when
Okay.
the previous chief of the army, and when he
Yeah,
had this,
everything was
everything was
on
on block.
hold. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we know that we have already replacement for our brigade commander. The
Yeah.
rumors in the army are talking about at the mid of May. I
Okay.
believe it will happen in the mid of May as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where we are.
Okay, well, let me ask something. You mentioned I'd like to give an explanation when you said Memorial Day because there's a Memorial Day holiday here in the United States, different from the Memorial Day in Israel. It's Yom HaZikaron. You have during the same week you have excuse me, you have Yom HaShoah, which is the Holocaust remembrance. Then you have Yom HaZikaron, the Memorial Day for the Israelis, men and women that have fallen in battle, is due to due to the wars.
Joe, do you know how we describe it? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
We
go ahead.
describe it as the following. I have to share it with you. Yom HaShoah, our Holocaust Memorial Day,
Mhm.
is the price that we paid for being without a country. Yom HaZikaron, the Memorial Day, is the price that we are paying to keep the country that we have.
And then it's followed the next day with Yom Ha'atzmaut, which is Independence Day, when
Right.
Israel became a state. Now,
Right.
you mentioned that this is about the time it's expected that there will be shifts in the structure of the army. I mean that the new commanders will take over, and
Mhm.
that will be sometime. You said May, and I believe that that's about the time. Maybe it might be a little bit later this year because everything's moved back because of the leap year. But certainly a lot is happening now. You mentioned that the army, that the Barak Brigade is preparing to go back into Gaza. Do
Right.
you feel that's a certainty they'll be going back into Gaza?
Joe,
It would
at the
have
end
to
of
be a
the,
miracle. It would have to
yes,
be a miracle for them
Yeah.
not to go in.
yeah, I agree.
So
I
As long
definitely
as there's
don't see
hostages
Hamas.
there, it's given that you've got to do everything in your power to get the
Absolutely,
hostages
absolutely.
back and to neutralize totally, to destroy Hamas.
Correct.
right.
Yes.
I have to tell you, I don't see any situation that Hamas is coming all of a sudden and saying, guys, we're sorry. Here is all of your hostage. Please, let's be friends. That won't happen.
No, no.
And I also, unfortunately, I don't see the Palestinian Authority coming and saying we are going to conquer or to rule Gaza. Let's start from there. I definitely see ourselves entering over there. I definitely see ourselves coming into a demilitary area zone that will be monitored by a European organization, not by the UN, and then maybe to start a kind of a cold ceasefire, a cold peace process. But that's my opinion. The damage or the brick that is the crick that has happened is so deep that even the biggest left people, the peace lover in Israel, are saying, guys, we thought, but it's impossible to have peace with them. So it's going to take quite a lot of years until we will be able to talk about peace process once again with the Palestinian.
All right. Well, news that we've recently heard is that there were at least 90 or more than 90 tunnels that were discovered by the engineers at the down near the Rafah crossing going into Egypt. Okay?
Yeah.
First, what does that state? These 90 tunnels, and
so you need to remember, Joe, there are two kind of tunnels in Gaza.
Okay.
One tunnel is the terrorist tunnel, and that's literally for smuggling weapon, money, and to prepare to create suicide attacks, terror attacks, as we saw on October 7th. The second kind, or the second model of tunnels, is literally financial, and that's for smuggling food, for smuggling I would say humanitarian aid, but it's not humanitarian, and that is being controlled by criminal syndicates. Now remember,
and a lot of cash, Roy, a lot of cash goes through these tunnels. Yeah.
By the way, if you measure the dollar versus shekel in Israel, so $1 is 3.5 shekel in Israel. $1 is almost 100 shekel in Gaza. Okay, that's how deep the crisis financial in Gaza is. So a lot of people, maybe the criminal syndicates, are building a lot of tunnels that are literally for criminal activity, financial. The reason I'm saying it, the focus of the IDF was against intel that we got at Hamas tunnels, and now we are also dealing with other tunnels. It's not that we didn't knew about it, we knew, but in terms of dealing with and prioritize what you want to deal, obviously to deal with terror and Hamas was first.
We lost you, Roy.
Oh, sorry. And now can you hear me? So obviously the prioritize was a little bit different. And now Hamas is getting more pressure because Israel is cutting more air supply when it comes also to money and also other things that they used. So that's basically those tunnels that you were referring to.
Right.
Let me switch to the north. A lot of activity going on in the north. One of some big topics that I've been hearing about here are the Druze. Also, we've been hearing that in Syria, the new government, if we can call them that, is doing a genocide against the Syrian Christian population. Do you see this as a threat of dealing with Israel?
It's even more deeper than that, Joe. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that the Syrian regime signed on a ceasefire agreement with the Kurds, which is very important for them. And also they signed a ceasefire agreement with the Druze that are living in the south part of Syria. Immediately after this ceasefire agreement has been signed, two of those three parties, the Kurds and the Druze, immediately released an announcement that this ceasefire agreement is not going to be against Israel, meaning that they are extremely afraid of what Israel is going to respond. The situation in Syria is still getting very chaotic. Today, Israel attacked using Air Force at the center of Damascus. mainly against the new regime facility, and that's to make sure that they are not getting the right power or the right attention from the people in Syria. The Druze that lives up on the north, there is a negotiation between them and the government in Israel to start enter Israel and to get working permit in Israel. Now that's big, guys. This is important.
Yes, yes.
And if that will happen, it's also something that will change a lot in this very weird puzzle that is going on in Syria at the moment. The fear that we all have is what's going to happen next and who is the nation, or let's call it the country, the sovereignty that will come and support the new regime in Syria. Russia has announced that they are right now staying away from there. Saudi Arabia as well. We are all waiting to see if it's going to be Iran once again. And based on that, Israel will need to decide what they are going to do.
Okay.
Or Turkey. Turkey is looming in the background also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we used to have an open border with Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, I mean, years ago, the Good Fence.
Yeah, the Good Fence.
Yeah, the Good Fence were Christians mostly, used to come in from Lebanon.
But look at that. As we said earlier, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
We had the people of South Lebanon that were our allies, and now all of a sudden we are doing the same thing with the North Druze of Syria. I mean, it's insane.
Now, Gilla mentioned something in our last update that the Druze, you've got a Druze population in the Golan Heights, right on the Syrian border, and then their relatives are right across the border. A lot of cousins and so forth. But one thing that I found interesting that you said, Gila, last week is the Druze, even though they want to come to Israel, will not move to Israel. They stay.
Oh, never.
They, wherever their town is, they stay in that town, and so that's got to be a factor here.
Big factor. The Druze epitomize the feeling or the whole way of life by which the people in the Middle East live. Land matters. Only Israelis are smarter than everybody and give away land. Nobody ever gives away land.
But you're absolutely right. The same thing you're saying right now, also in related to Hamas in Gaza. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of their biggest issue was, you want to ceasefire agreement, get out from our land, give us back the parameter protection that Israel took out in order to protect the new border. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Of course. But I think
that's the 10 commandments of anybody living in the Middle East.
Correct.
You never give up land.
But personally, I think we are going to be witness in the near future to some small terrorist activity that will happen in Syria border. I don't know if it's going to be against us, but it's definitely going to move from Damascus towards Israel. There is no doubt about it. I can tell you proudly that Israel and the 74 Battalion that is right now in Syria is doing a lot to move back the civilian and any kind of engagement with the population over there by telling them, guys, you're there, we are here, we don't want to interfere, we just want to keep our border safe. But things will happen. I have no doubt. We know the history. This is a not nice, not pleasant neighborhood, and the people over there are not playing very smart and safe.
Okay,
Yeah.
another question. Not on Syria, but Iran. Um, you know, my personal opinion, you're going to have the terrorist problem continuing until Iran's dealt with. Basically, you've got to cut at some point the head off the snake.
Yeah.
How are things looking towards Iran? And you know, I don't know what you can say, but
It's bigger than Israel.
yes,
It really has to be done with in cooperation with the U.S. So maybe
It
Israel,
will happen.
yeah,
It
maybe
will
Israel
happen.
will have to do it. Maybe
It will
Israel will
happen
have
as
to
a
do
part
it.
of a bigger coalition, as
Yeah,
Gilla mentioned. It
yeah,
will definitely happen. I believe that it will happen soon, let's say in 2025. Okay.
wow.
yes, yeah,
Okay,
That's my personal opinion. It's going to involve more than Israel, more than United States. There is
right,
something
right.
that is bigger than all of us that is going over there, and we all need to get ready.
yeah,
That's where it's going.
yeah. And Russia and China, uh, they're major factors to consider. We're down to our last couple minutes here. Um, it is a time that we need to stand with Israel. We need to stand in prayer, but we also need to stand with what we can do to support
Thank you.
financially. And right now, the brigade is working to get ready because they know the time's coming that the tanks are going to roll, and we have a desperate need to be able to get everything up to par right now. So if you can help, go to JerusalemTempleStudy.com/David Fund. You can scan the little bar in the corner, and your donation, first off, it's tax deductible. Secondly, every bit of it goes to the Army, and it is needed.
Mm.
Gilla and Roy, any closing comments before we close out this update?
Well, celebrate Purim, be happy, but remember that times are not easy, and there's a lot of trouble looming, and we have to keep on guard. We have to always be on our toes. Thank you so much for all your help, and we thank you for everything that you did and you can do, and we love you very much. Thank you.
I'm with Gila 100%. Toda rabah for everything, really.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Shalom,
Purim
everyone.
Sameach.
Purim
Happy
Sameach.
Purim.